Today, I would like to take us way back in the original Lavette 11 channel and bring this back to where I started, which was linguistics. I understood, or I came to understand, the English language, or speaking in general, is a spell. Literally, we're creating this life that we live in. And a lot of it is within our tongue. What comes out your mouth is what's in your heart and in your mind. And what's in your mind and your heart is what you put in there. But I do understand how an entire species has been manipulated with a language. And English is, with many languages really, a lot of languages are invented. Pretty much all of them really. I mean, even the Bible tells us this. We used to speak with all one tongue. And now there are so many different languages. And then there are all the dead languages and the symbolic languages and the computer languages. And we're communication, which to me takes me back to my very beginning here. My number one issue with coming into this body, fully aware, having my own communication system, and having to learn this thing, speech, was incredible to me. So, and it was important to me. And it was literally my life's mission, is understanding why the hell do we call this, and why does this other person call it something different, and that one something different, the chaos of it all. Kelly's up moping around. So, back to the beginning of language, because there's a lot of rhetoric out there right now. I'm getting a lot of questions about politics and all this and that. I don't feed that egregore. I just don't. It's not part of my life. To me, I clearly understood, just in what I've learned in astrology and alchemy, that if there ever was a thing called an election, a fair election, the last vestiges of it died in 2016. 2020 was a coup. And who knows what this is going to be. But it's all part of their script. It's all part of an overlaying script. It's a rewrite. It's not even real. Everything we've been taught and told in our schools, history's a lie. The construct is a lie. They tell us that there are governments. They're not. There's one ruling body that keeps all the others separated and at each other's throat. It's call it a spirit of conflict, if you will. Very root chakra. Very dominant. It wants to keep everybody in fear. Because truly, that's the only thing that separates us. Period. Is fear. And we're more separated now than we've ever been. Because we're separated by these computers and phones that you carry around. So freedom is the big word that's been thrown at me a lot about, don't you care about your freedom? You're going to lose your freedoms. Freedoms. I don't like this word. I've always had a problem with this word. It's the freedom, right? And in a way, freedom itself is chaos. So we have all these images of freedom. You know, and when you tell me freedom, these are the first images that come to my mind. It's being in chains, being locked up, but you don't really understand what that implies. The definition of freedom, the power or right, which is spelt wrong, that should be R-I-T-E, so that right there is a problem. To act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Now, the state of not being, imprisoned or enslaved. So literally, when you say you want your freedom, you're already internally, subconsciously implying that you are enslaved. And therefore you are. Just because you think that. The word we should be fighting for, if you're going to fight for something, is sovereignty. Freedom is just a, what do you call it? When you make something and you have stuff that's left over, a byproduct. Freedom is a byproduct of sovereignty. If you don't have sovereignty, then you do not have any vestige of freedom. Because there's freedom, you're not half in or half out. Either you're enslaved or you're a sovereign. And that's your choice. We all make our choices. I refuse to be ensovereigned by the media, the rhetoric, the hype. I'm too busy creating my own world, my own tomorrow. What we do today, what the seeds we plant today is the harvest we eat tomorrow. You plant fear today, you're going to reap that. You plant love today, that's what you'll reap. Another one is about the children. And, I get all that. Probably more than most of you do. Because I was abused as a child in every way around me. Everything coming at me was total abuse in every form you can think of. And I'm sure that in its own little way, I was MK'd ultra by a narcissist and society itself. And I believe that's already occurred. I've been telling y'all for a long time that if you started school and you learned to read, you were initiated into the mysteries. Everybody on the whole planet experienced what they shoved down our throats on the TV on 9/11. Everybody was initiated into that mystery. And it created this egregore. We created it out of fear because it's all about energy. Everything is about energy. Frequency, sound, vibration. That's why speaking freaks me out. Language freaks me out because your words are so powerful. You have no idea. There's a time and a season for everything under the sun. And what I see going on, in a way, can be really scary. But at the same time, I see their agenda. I see what they're doing. And it's an initiation process. It's what I call the dance of the seven veils. In a way, humanity has been held back and sheltered like a bunch of frickin' sheep. Well, it's time for the shepherd to step up and wake the sheep up. Okay? They're gonna get slaughtered. And it's time we get sheared in a financial way. They take all our wool, they shear us down until we're no longer profitable in our wool, and then they slaughter us. This is what is occurring here. But there's always another level to it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction because they've constructed a binary system. When the truth is all things come in threes, not in twos. So you have to rise above that binary system to get it. To be the observer, to look down on that duality, that black and white, and see it for what it is. You can only rise above it as an observer, and that is your sovereignty. But if you're in it, then you're just feeding it. You're feeding that egregore of fake politics where, I watched it happen. I watched when politics crawled in bed with Hollywood back in the Clinton era. We saw Bill Clinton go on these late night shows playing his saxophone, being the cool dude. We were told he smoked pot in college, blah, blah. He didn't inhale shit. All that. They personified a different character for the public. And the public ate that shit up. So he wasn't a stuffed coat politician. And ever since then, it's been a slow drive to the other end, to where we are now in this woke stuff, where politicians act like celebrities. They think they're in a popularity contest instead of an election. And at the same time, Hollywood and all the celebrities think they're politicians by all this telling us how to live, virtue signaling, all this crap. They've switched identities. And they come at us in every way possible. They do it through the radio and the music. They do it through the education system and the language. They do it through financial means. They do it through the internet, through the television, the programming, the sports, everything. Everything is one big construct to affect us consciously. Because we're the frickin' creators here. We're feeding these egregores that, I'm going to just call them, to me, they're the Babylonian priesthood. That's what they are. They always have been. They're that head of gold. Well, now they've done mixed their self down with the toes of iron and clay that won't stand. And you wonder, do they do it on purpose? Because we are slowly, as a species, doing what I call the dance of the seven veils. They're moving us through the chakras. It's a lot like the book of Revelations when it's talking about the seven churches or the seven chakras, and what you know, what you don't know, what you did right, what you did wrong, and where you stand. And it's moving through those chakras to get you to the next one. You have to overcome, till you get all the way to the top. And you come to the realization that you're a sovereign because you choose to be. Well, if you're enslaved, or you have no freedom because you choose to be. And even the word liberty. Liberty is a word that we get from maritime language. And it is like if you're in the Navy, you get liberty to leave the ship. And liberty is only a short vacation, okay? 2 or 3 days. You get liberty. Again, you can only get liberty if you're being held captive. And to be held captive, it must be against your will. Otherwise, you've willed this to be. And literally, life is a state of mind. And we are being alchemically seduced to either raise our consciousness or lower our consciousness. And ours is being lowered to the root chakra by this Babylonian priesthood of control, when it's up to us individually to raise our consciousness, which again once the scales have tipped, then society itself and this group collective, this group think we have, will automatically raise as well. I used to really burden myself, watch a lot of the videos about what they were doing to the kids, because I had been through that. I related to it. It was what the Bible would call a familiar spirit. Been there, done that. So I didn't realize then what I do now, because my burden, the only reason I came back here after opening my third eye, was not for myself, but was for the children. It was made plain to me there's others here suffering the same thing you are. And if you care so little for this life you've been given, then why not give it for a cause? Stand in the gap for them as I've stood in the gap for you between life and death, even if it kills you. And I knew that was the right answer. But to me, I've also come to understand we're all children. We're all just babies here. There are no grown-ups in this world, in this age. We're not there yet. We're still, the mutable age itself is like you go from a 2-year-old toddler tantrum to a teenage tantrum to wild and crazy 16 to 18, and then before you know it, you're having a midlife crisis. It's freaking crazy the way all this has been set up. And I think we're all to the point that really we're willing to sacrifice. And we just want a little peace, right? We just want peace. We want the wars to stop. We want the bullshit to stop. We don't want to work 80 hours a week to not even be able to pay the bills. You want what you call freedom. Well, if you're sovereign, you wouldn't have to worry about any of that. You wouldn't be a slave to it anymore. It is a state of mind. And they're keeping everybody in the lower chakra in fear. And the two lower chakras, which are Jupiter and Mars, they rule war, rage, sexuality, emotions. Jupiter's ruling desire, empire, expansion, more, materialism. And really, it's our own choices. Happy is something you experience within yourself. You know, it's like narcissists. I don't care how much you give them, it's never enough. It's never enough. They're never happy. They always want more. Or once they get something, they're bored with it in 2 minutes and they're on to the next thing. They have trouble maintaining relationships. They go through people. They go through, everything is fabricated with them. And they really just seem to walk through life because they're walking all over everybody else while they do it. But they're always miserable. They don't know what happy is. They're always in internal chaos. And that's the price they pay. They're stuck in those lower chakras of one-upmanship, living up with the Joneses, which is really, when you dig down to its core, is nothing but an inferiority complex. And they come off as extremely arrogant because the lack inside is expressing itself on the outside. It's all, my mother was never happy. It was always about money. Money seems to be really important to them. They think that money will get them what they want. It will buy them that happiness. And they generally end up getting it. But then it doesn't. It doesn't buy them. So they want something else. And I've always said the biggest problem with manifestation is you have too many choices. To manifest, it's got to be that one thing. And that's something a narcissist I need something to drink, is good at is they know what they want. And they focus in on that one thing, and they'll walk over anybody or anything to get it. They will sacrifice anybody or anything to get it. And so they manifest it at the cost of everybody else. But then once they have it, they're just, man, it's not what I thought it was. Or it didn't fuel me the way I needed it to. So they're on to the next. Okay, I'm going to pause here. I need something to drink. Okay, that's much better. I was getting really dry and barely able to talk. Okay, let's keep moving through this. Because what I want to get to try to explain to you, because this is a linguistics thing to me in my mind, and is to get the right terminology, the right mindset, think the right way, instead of this self-disempowerment. We're literally in a mindset that we don't have to give up our freedom. We already done that a long time ago when we co-opted into all these egregores. Now I'm going to throw this out there one more time because a lot of you don't get it. Politics is a bunch of egregores that create one big egregore. There are different factions of politics and governments, and the education system has its own egregore. And all of these are spirits or constructs. But the egregore behind it is the energy behind it. The power behind it. The power to manifest. And when you feed these things, when you give them your attention, your observance, your time, your energy. Time is energy. They tell you time is money. Money is energy. Money is time is energy. And so, the more you feed it, the bigger it gets. The more power over you it has. Now, this is going on inside of you internally with your chakra systems. And our species is going through a dance of the 7 veils. And we have to make a conscious choice to go to the top. And you know, in the calendar of things, in the precessional calendar, the sun takes 72 years to move 1 degree. And we are moving from Pisces into Aquarius. That's from mutable water to fixed air. That is a huge jump. That's from your navel chakra all the way to your crown chakra. Boom! In 1 instant. And the only way to really do that is this third eye event, which I believe is coming. It's talked about in everywhere. It's talked about in the book of Revelations. Revelations means to unveil, to uncover, to discover, to reveal. It is the dance of the 7 veils, but it's all shown to you symbolically, because each of these chakras control, represent, are these images in the book of Revelation are the egregores that's attached to each of these chakras. That's what they are. You'll find the same images and egregores in the zodiac and in the constellation images. That's what they are. They're egregores, they're myths, they're legends, they're stories that we feed and feed and feed. I see them for what they are. We look at the zodiac in the heavens as being above us. I'm telling you, go inward and look down on it. Look at it like it's on the floor. I loved that in Lodge 49, where Dud falls down into the lower basement, and he's standing in just probably a couple of inches of water, but he sees the heavens. the stars coming at him from below, coming up. He has reached the observer point. Here, he's in the basement, but there, he's above it all. He's above the maze, above the labyrinth, just like, not Ernie, what's the sovereign protector was talking with Dud about at the beachside, when he said he's finally, after all these years, he's finally above the maze and he can see it for what it is. That's where you need to go. Rise above it. Or you become a part of it. And a lot of people want to be a part of it. Now, I'm going to agree. A lot of people, especially with these NPCs or whatever, they've completely sold out to this thing. They have no will of their own. They are truly, truly robotic sheep. They just get in line and do what they're told. And they end up paying the ultimate price for it as well. Because they've gave up their sovereignty, their freedom. If that, I can't go with that word. We need that word to be dismissed from our language along with its opposite, the enslavement part. We don't need to be emancipated. We need to have sovereignty. We don't need liberated. We need each individual's sovereignty. And in a way, that's kind of like what Crowley was telling us. Do what thou wilt. But at the same time, he only told you half of the truth. Surely do what thou wilt, but be prepared to pay the price, because that pendulum always brings the other way. And karma, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And I think we're seeing this also with the powers that be, like Hollywood and DC crawling in bed together, and now DC's Hollywood and Hollywood is DC. The celebrities are in DC and the politicians are in Hollywood. And it don't work. It don't mix. It's all coming down. It's woke. Nobody wants to have any part of it. And those that did are really feeding that egregore, because they have no sovereign identity. Who are you? You decide who you are. I've always known who I am. I didn't understand in school when they asked me in the first grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? I didn't know what that meant. I want to be myself. What do you mean? Who do I want to be? I want to be me. And they had to explain to me it was a career. We all grow up and we get a job. What do you want? They should have said, what do you want to do when you grow up? Not who do you want to be? Who do you want to be when you grow up? See the problem there? Well, my little brain just immediately, what do you mean? Who do I want to be? I'm me. Am I supposed to change or something? Am I supposed to become something else? And it had to be explained to me. Well, no, a job is something you do, not who you are. Do you get the trick? The programming, the schooling. But it's always been about language to break the spell. And truly, that's how I broke the spell, was understanding that even our own language was only part of a whole language. Now, the real language that I found was alchemy. Alchemy to me is simply a language of symbols. It's like freaking hieroglyphics. It's like a computer code. It's from DOS to C. I went from DOS to C++. Just boom, overnight. It was just, when you get it, you just get it. And I feel like it was a gift. I struggled to understand it for decades and never did. And when I finally threw everything up in the air and said, I give up, I let go, then it all fell down into place. I had to be stripped down to nothing over and over and over and over again. I kept repeating the same pattern in my life, making the same mistakes with the same type of people and the same... I was just in a freaking Groundhog Day of going and building this life and then letting somebody through the door that tore it all down to the ground. So I learned to be a sovereign, you have to walk alone. To get down that narrow path, you have to walk alone. A lot of you are wondering why you're hell alone and you're lonely. You're lonely because you have the best friend you'll ever have, that you ever have had. It's your higher self has always been with you. I call them your forever self. And that's the best friend you'll ever have. The only friend you'll ever need. That's why it was so important when Balaam, the master, the lamb, told the disciples that, they called him master. Balaam, that's what that means. Lord, master, rabbi, teacher. He said he would call them friends. Closer than a brother. A brother, you don't have a choice. You're born with that. But to choose, you choose your friends. That's a sign of high respect, is those that we allow into our lives. Thank you for allowing me into your lives. I consider it an honor, more than you know, because to me, you are those children that I came back for. Most of you are close to my age, so you were those children when I was a child. And we're all grown up now. But inside, we're all still that little child. It's still in us. It's our birth chart, our natal chart. That's why they call it the natal chart. That's why I move us through. In alchemical astrology, you move through. Saturn moves you through your life. You have your first and your second, and if you're really lucky, a third Saturn return, because they happen every 30 years. Every 15 years, Saturn is opposed to where it was in your natal chart. But the rest of the planets are all in a different place. The sun, the moon, all of them, as you move through. So you really have 3 charts. You have a birth chart. You have a first Saturn return chart that happens when you're 30, when you begin your ministry. Jesus began his ministry on his first Saturn return. And then you have your second, where you graduate. That's real graduation at 60. That's when it all comes home. You've just been in school up till then. And it's happening for many, many of us. Some my age are still struggling. They were so embedded in the myth and the big one for the whole world, really. It wasn't just here. It was called the American Dream. And they've decided to change that story, which was a lie to begin with. They've decided to change that story, and it's upset a lot of people. They're taking away your Cinderella book and giving you a nightmare, a horror story. They're telling you it's nighttime. The daydream is over. The daydream never was for me. I never saw it. I don't see what people do. What American dream? It is a dream because it's not real. People that come over here from other countries, they figure that out real quick. Oh no, you come here, you got to work hard. There's nothing free. And the older you get, the more you work. And the older this country gets, the more we work. For less money. We work more, longer hours for less and less and less. But the egregores around us they're so huge, they need more and more and more to sustain. It costs more food to keep a big, obese adult alive than it does a tiny baby. Energy. It's all about energy. And we're exhausted. We've expelled so much energy. We are deplenished, depleted, exhausted. You have an eternal supply of energy. You just got to tap into it. Matter of fact, you have two major supplies of energy, chakra-wise. Your sun and your moon and your solar plexus is where you plug into. Now you can plug in those two lower chakras, Jupiter and Mars, that gets us by in our day. It's what I call survival mode. Or you can plug into the upper chakras, and it's a 220. It's got 3 plugs. Venus, Mercury, and Saturn. You got a choice. They've flipped everything upside down here. They've told you evil's good and good is evil. They've got you fighting for freedom. The thing about freedom is, once you escape out of jail, they generally find you and just drag you right back. But if you're a sovereign, as you've noticed with the elite, you're untouchable. Harry can do what he wants. He's untouchable. Meghan figured that out. Now she thinks she's untouchable. Andrew's untouchable. Charles was all tied up with Jimmy Savile. He's untouchable. Because they're not part of our myth, our mythos, our egregores. They have their own to deal with. The elite have their own to deal with. Because theirs is a worldly, physical, power control egregore that they have to feed and maintain. Unfortunately, it's us they're feeding this thing to. We're the food. And we just volunteer, really, is what you're doing. I don't mean to laugh at you. I'm laughing at myself because I've done it for decades. I get it. And I think it's wonderful now that I can look back at my own ignorance and laugh at it. Because that's true sovereignty. The most powerful word that I've ever learned is no. And I had to learn it. I was raised to be a yes person, a people pleaser, I was truly MK'd ultra. You didn't speak unless you were spoken to. You weren't allowed to show any emotions, reactions, good, bad, happy, sad. No, none of that was allowed. That was considered weakness. And, no. So, they always say that the Capricorn really doesn't have a childhood, so they tend to relive have a childhood when they get older. And that truly does happen for me. I was thinking yesterday, I'm glad it's finally cooling off because I like blowing bubbles in the cold and watching them freeze. Watch it, when the snow comes and it gets really cold and you can take soap bubbles. And they're different in the winter than they are in the spring or summer. By the way, in case you're interested, it's just the observation of it. It fascinates me. Bubbles fascinate me. They're really incredible if you stop and think about it. The funny thing about a bubble. Let's talk about an air bubble because that's really what it is. It's air inside of a shell. Well, if you put an air bubble in a vacuum and you start running different frequencies through it, there's one of those frequencies that the bubble collapses and it turns into a spark of light. It just hangs there like a star in the sky. It's quite incredible. Physics. I love science and physics. Quantum physics, all of it. There's a physics for the material world, and then there's the quantum physics that's for the spiritual world, the unseen world, the non-tangible world. You can't see it, you can't touch it, taste it, smell it, but you can feel it because it's still energy. For quite a while now, I've noticed the change because I've always been, I'm a copper-based bloodline, so I always get that static charge. Pow, pow, pow. You touch a person or you touch metal. And, it seemed to happen as a kid at certain times of the year. In the mornings when it was cool and the static electricity in your hair, and then you'd touch somebody and it'd pop you. Well, now it's constant for me. If I touch I do this quick touch on anything metal, whether it's a grocery cart, a metal door, my car door, anything, because I'm always getting shocked. And the charge is pretty strong now. And I'm not sure if I'm releasing that energy or I'm absorbing that energy. But literally, I can hold my finger close to like a door handle that a bunch of people have touched, one of those metal ones, and you can see the blue spark jump from my finger to the door. And it's every time now. And it hurts. I made the mistake once of, I didn't want my finger to get popped again. So I touched the door with the back of my finger on my fingernail. And that really hurt. Don't do that. Don't discharge that energy through your fingernails. I need to find a better way. I need to pause here again. Okay, we're going to wrap this up with sovereignty. Supreme power or authority. It's over oneself, not over others. When we move to be a real king, to be a true king, is you have sovereign over yourself and you serve others, not rule over them. The only thing you rule is yourself, your emotions, root chakra, your desires, your navel chakra, your energy, masculine or feminine, solar plexus, your heart, Venus, your words, your intellect, what you think, Mercury, and then that crown, Saturn, your higher self, the one that's above, the observer, the sovereign, that's above all, that's Lord over all what? All your other chakras. You have to take them into control. That's really expressed in the Hindi images of sovereignty. Can we get that up here? Wow. I say it and there it is. Let's go to some images. No, I want not the meaning. I want the image. Nope. Okay, how about there? I don't even know how to find it. But this guy's sitting on a horse. It's the blue guy on the horse, and he's got all these reins in his hands. He's driving 6 white horses when he comes. That one. Because he's control over the lower chakras. You take control over your emotions. You take control over your desires. You take control over your heart. That was my big problem, because our heart deceives us. It tells us that you should love that person. Well, sometimes love has to be tough, and that person don't deserve to be loved because they're screwing you over. And you're just being a fool and playing into them. They take advantage of us. There's different ways to love without giving in to the whims of others. And in a way, I can look down over this thing and I see that the highest authority of all has let this Yaldabaoth demiurge character think that it's in control, and it's not, because what it has produced, this wokeness, this root chakra darkness that it has produced, must flip to the other side. to go from in complete darkness from that root chakra all the way to the crown. So I get this jump from Pisces to Aquarius. And it all happens in the twinkling of an eye. This mortality puts on immortality. There still exist in the body together, mortality and immortality. But when we do pass from this life, this immortality sheds the mortality. And it just goes ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But your consciousness, your soul, your spirit, that part of you that you can't touch, taste, see, smell, but you can feel it. That's the real you. That's the real you, the whole you, the sovereign you. And that's where we need to get to. That's where we need to be. You got to put on your crown. And everything they're doing has been to steal our crowns. 9/11 was a crown chakra event. The jab was a steal your crown event. You got to go through your heart and your mind to get to your crown. You got to go through your thalamus to get to the pineal. Thalamus is the link between the heart and the pineal gland. I'll leave us. I'm going to wrap this up with Isaiah. We've been through this before. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart that he doesn't despise. I want to show you some more here. I want to knock this point home. Isaiah 66, the humble and contrite in spirit. Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. What is the house that you would build? The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit and a contrite heart. Isaiah 57, Daniel 10, Isaiah 62. You can tell what chakra, egregore you're feeding by the heart. We know these are upper chakras. They're not worldly, whether they're tangible or intangible. Pray for the intangible. Pray for that silent peace of mind that you can hear him. Your own genie in a bottle. Let me take you to one more. Matthew 6, 22 and 23. The light of the body is the eye. Not an eye, the eye, singular. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, the whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Now let's go to Corinthians. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, 7 trumps for 7 chakras. For the last trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall all be changed. We will be changed. When you open your third eye, it changes everything. That immortality puts on mortality. You move from lower chakra to upper chakra. You get your crown. You get your sovereignty. You're no longer subjected to this world, its systems. Beast in the Revelations. And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, and it had this, this, and this. One beast is a beast of governments. You have monarchies and democracies and republics and fascism, communism, all these isms. That's that one beast. It's political systems. It's governments. And then you have the other beast that comes up out of the earth, and it's all the religious systems. All these institutional religious systems. If that helps. A creature is different than a beast. And I saw a creature in heaven. And he had the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. Those are the crosses in the heavens. Those are the 4 constellations of the fixed cross. Or there are 3 creatures up there. But we're shown the one at the throne. When you get your crown and you're a sovereign, you have a throne. And it even tells us that when we get there, we all take off our crowns and throw them at his feet. The throne. Because he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But to get there, you have to have a crown. And to do that, you have to let go of this world. Mars and Jupiter. And a lot of Mercury. You have to lose your mind, because what we think, what we've been programmed, what we've been taught is all a lie. None of it's real. We're in frickin' Oz. It's time to go back to Kansas. Because we can create our own happy little world. That's what we came here to do. To create our own happy little world and share it with everybody else's happy little world to where we all get along. You know, back in the 70s, when we finally moved to the city, I was amazed. I loved it. I'd never had neighbors before. I'd never had friends just in my neighborhood right next door. And everybody left their doors open. And we just wandered in and out of everybody's house. We were friends. You just, the door's open, you tap twice as you're walking through. Hey, anybody home? You're already in the house. Now you can have bars and it ain't good enough. They have conned us into entrapping ourselves. And you got to let go of that mentality, that way of thinking. It's all a state of mind. I don't want freedom. I have my sovereignty. I'm going to keep it. Even if it kills me. I'll fight for yours. If you want your sovereignty, I'll help you go in that direction. But I don't want to rule over anybody but myself. And we are all in this together. And a sovereign serves the others, not rules over them. So when you become a sovereign, you enslave yourself to others, but not to these constructs, not to these egregores, not to these ideas that don't even exist. Government is just something we all agree on. Religion, institutions are something we all agree on. We have the books. We don't need these interpreters. They just pull you to the pit, to the altar. The pulpit's on the altar. They pull you to the pit and alter you. And that's what they're for. And I don't know about the churches you've been in, but I've been in very few that were even close to the truth. They're all caught up in the hype, the lie, the surface material. But it goes much deeper. And it goes to a dark place or a light place. And the best thing that you can ever do is outgrow the church. And that's really kind of what's happening. Is we're all doing this dance of the 7 bells, and we're waking up more and more and more, seeing things more clearly for what they are. And you know, the church, religion, philosophy, ideology, all that is your navel chakra. It's root chakra. It's part of this world. It doesn't have anything to do with the heart or the crown. All right, people. We're kicking on an hour here. I'm going to close this up. I really didn't mean this video to be this long. I love you all bunches. You know what to do. You bank your karma, because some wicked days are coming. We all know what's coming. We've been through this how many times now? The same old rhetoric every 4 years, every 4 years, every 4 years. So everybody's going to do what they're going to do, but the elite already have their plans. They have no problem telling us what's coming. But you don't have to be a part of that or feed into it. Don't take its mark, its brand, its logo, its symbol. Because there's power in those symbols. There's power in the logos. All right. If my channel's helped you, won't you please, please help me keep coming to you. I know things are hard out there for everybody. Oh, by the way, I do want to pitch this in at the end. I'm still looking for extra work. If anybody knows of any online jobs that I might just make some extra money at, please drop me a link or a mention, and with a way to contact you. And I'm always still looking for that roommate, so let me know.